Mr. Ang, you've talked about what you enjoy working in the public and private sectors, which is this relationship building. Can you name specifically what skills you think you can bring into politics that you've, sort of learned in the private sector and as formerly from the SPR?
I think when I was a civil servant, when we implement policy, we have the policy objective in mind, and just implement it. But when it comes to the private sector point of view, was the recipients of the public policy that's implemented on us, then I see in a different perspective. I can give you one example. Public transport security is getting more important, especially after 9/11 in the US and 7/7 and 7 July in London bombing. So the different security agencies can come up with quite extreme measures to make public transport safer from the terrorism. But that could mean a lot of inconveniences to the public transport user, because we cannot say, for example, a gate on the bus interchange, we go through the same gate and have it back checks and things like that. So there's a balance. Have worked in the public sectors, I can see the perspective. When I also see that the private sector to do all these things need a lot of cost. So I can better convince both sides to come with positions that's amicable to both parties about meeting most of the objective, and at the same time it doesn't inconvenience the public a lot and doesn't cost too much for the private sector to bear. So these are examples. Moving on, there are a lot of other examples along the way. We can give a perspective as in the private sectors how we view the public policies are implemented and affecting us.
Just one question. Workers' Party actually say they want to run the national bus on cost recovery. Is it possible in your opinion? Because
if you look at
it's a listed company.
That's right. If you look at transport companies around the world who are run by the government, which means that it's not privately run, very few, I can't think of any actually, but very few are actually able to do a cost recovery kind of basis. In countries I visited, like UK or US, a few states, Washington or LA, they tell me that most of the time they can cover only a certain percentage of the operation costs. So when we look at Hong Kong, for example, it's another country whereby the buses and the train are provided by a private company. They are a public listed company, but a lot of people say that Hong Kong's transport is quite efficient, and the cost is affordable. So I'm not so sure. It's always the best model to nationalise public services. In the past, I think we can see telecommunications, Singapore Power, even waste management has also privatized in the light. So they become more efficient and they can compete overseas. So this is a question mark, I think. In my opinion, it's going to be difficult to have efficient national company to run all the transport services.
So I'd like to go back to special education for a moment, if we could. You raised, different models when we discussed about public transport. Have you looked at other models in other countries of how special education is looked after in other countries, and have you done any kind of comparisons?
I think the US, they have much better tools in terms of assessing children with special needs. So to them, they think that maybe more than 10% of the population has special needs. While in Singapore, probably we think we have less, probably because of assessment too. So in other countries, when they have a program for special needs, they have first a good tools to assess, and two, they have very individualized program for the children. So for us in Singapore, it's something to catch up. Even, for example, in the area of curriculum development, and research in the area is still quite in a different stage compared to other countries. There's something we can improve on.
In general, for global development delay, usually when are children diagnosed? And is 1.5 years considered late or early? You know?
It's about the age itself, because that's when you see that whether children, whether they go to a crawling stage or doesn't crawl. So this is about time, but it's just not GDD per se. There are autism,
right.
there are others, dyslexias and things like that.